friends, my name is Raghav Joshi and welcome to Donut Wheel. Today I had the honor of interviewing Lieutenant General Asit Mistry of the Indian Army. Let's get to it.
My name is Raghav and today I am going to the school of NISV. I'm in grade 4 and today I've prepared some questions I would like to people answer eventually.
Thank you, Raghav. My name is Asit Mistry. I'm a retired Lieutenant General from Indian Army. I served for nearly 4 decades in the Army, and it's my great pleasure and pride to interact with you. Thank you very much for calling me on your show.
What was your journey to join the army?
Well, Raghav, like you, I was studying in a school here in Baroda. Many decades ago, I was studying in the experimental school. And for some reasons, I got motivated to be a soldier. And somebody said the best way to become a soldier is to go and join a Sainik school. The Sainik schools are all over India. There is one in Gujarat called Sainik School, Balachari. I appeared in the entrance exam and I got selected. Incidentally, I didn't get selected in my first attempt in 71. So I got selected in my second attempt in 72 and joined the Sainik School at Balachari, which is near Ramnagar in 1972 in the 6th standard. So I did my 6th to 11th day. Then I appeared in the entrance exam for the National Defense Academy at Radhwasla. There I was fortunate to get to the first attempt. And so you join NDA, you get a 3 years training. And thereafter, depending on what service you have selected, which was Army in my case, you go and 1 more year of training, which was for the Army, it is at Dehradun at Indian Military Academy. So I did that training. And lo and behold, I was a young second lieutenant, newly commissioned officer with 1 star on my shoulder, probably more stars in my eyes than on my shoulder. To start my career in the Army in 1982.
What is your toughest mission you've been on?
That's a tough question. I served in the Army for nearly 40 years. And toughest or toughness or challenges, they vary from time to time, and this role that you play and the responsibilities that you get. So when you are younger in life, you are expected to do things yourself and face dangers yourself. So in my younger days, as a young captain, I was part of the National Security Guards, or the NSG or Black Cap Commandos as they are known. Remember the Mumbai 2008 operation?
Yes, 2611.
2611?
Yes.
Those commandos that had come from Delhi and neutralized all the terrorists. Well, I was part of the same unit. But 20 years ago, way back in 88. So as a captain, that was very challenging. But as you grow in life, you get different responsibilities. As a commanding officer, I was a full colonel. I had nearly 20 years of service. So at that time, your role and responsibilities changed. So my job was to command an infantry battalion in the Siachen Glacier. Now that's a very tough challenge. So while as a commanding officer, I was physically not staying on a post or facing direct action from the enemy, but it was my job to look after an entire battalion spread over 10, 15 kilometers, 1,000 people. So that's a different set of challenges. And later, as a 2-star general, as a major general, I was commanding the Rashtriya Rifle Force in North Kashmir. This was in 2015, 16. So we were fighting terrorists in Kashmir.
Yes.
I had 20,000 troops to do that job, but the responsibility for their empowerment was mine. So that's a different set of challenges. Because every time your troops go into action, pressure is on your head, and that they all come back alive, that they succeed in their mission, that you don't lose any people. So every time you get a different job, there are different sets of challenges and different sense of toughness required. In some, you have to face physical dangers. In some, there are mental challenges, moral courage, spiritual courage, intellectual courage that is required because your decisions will impact lives of thousands of people.
Can you share some stories during your time in the army?
Again, see,
Interesting stories.
you are asking me to pick stories from a 4 decades worth of journey, but I would like to pick two stories. Okay. One is about my experience in Siachen. And that's not a story about me, but about an officer who served under me. And this story is of Captain Asit Mistry. So we were in Siachen, and on 2nd of March 2003, when the winters were almost coming to an end, we had a massive avalanche or a series of avalanches in that area where my battalion was deployed. I was responsible for the safety, welfare, and well-being of those people under me, that is the entire battalion, 1,000 people, as also ensuring safety and integrity of the line of control of almost 15-20 kilometers where we were facing Pakistan. So we had this series of avalanches on 2nd of March. One avalanche struck at 7:30 in the morning at one of the posts where my people were. Fortunately, everybody survived. Another avalanche struck at another post at 1:30 in the afternoon. Unfortunately, we lost 3 quarters while we were able to rescue about 15-20 of the people who were buried under snow, but we couldn't save the last 3. And the worst one came at 10:30 at night. Normally, you don't expect avalanches to come once the sun is down. Avalanche is supposed to come when the sun is up and it's hot. But you can't control nature. So we had an avalanche coming at 10:30 at night on a post on which my people were staying. There were 12 people. They were all buried under the snow. Fortunately, 6 managed to dig themselves out of that snow and survived. But the other 6 just could not go out. Now, to rescue these 6 who had come out, Captain Sachin Bali, who was the post commander in that area, company commander in that area, took out a rescue party. Came to rescue these people, marching about 6 to 8 hours in the snow and blizzard. Unfortunately, they got caught in a snow blizzard. And by the time they reached this post where we had suffered the avalanche casualties, the whole geography of terrain of that area had changed and they couldn't spot anything. This was late at night. Because all signs of human habitation had been obliterated because 15-20 feet of snow had come over. But the net result was Captain Sachin Bali's party got exposed to all the elements, to the cold, and they suffered a lot of cold injuries. So on the second day, we had to start evacuating his party. They had to be evacuated by helicopter. And the heights were such, the post from where they had to be evacuated was at almost 18,000 feet. So an helicopter which is supposed to carry 3 people at that altitude carry only 1 person because the lift capability goes down. Now, as per our principles of casualty evacuation, the one who is most serious needs to be evacuated first, not the rank determines that. And Captain Bali, as the commander of that party, was actually the most severely wounded. He had a lot of frostbite injuries on his toes and hands and fingers and all that. But he, being an officer, refused to be evacuated first. He said, "No, my men must be evacuated first. I will be the last one." So 1 person was evacuated. Helicopter went back. 2nd person was evacuated. 3rd person was evacuated. All this was taking time. And unfortunately, the weather packed up. And when the weather packed up, there could be no further evacuation that night. So Captain Sachin Bali was constrained to stay on in the post. And he's staying one more night on that post with those injuries at that altitude. And he could only be evacuated the third night. When he was brought to the hospital, ultimately he had to lose 6 of his fingers. Four fingers of his right hand and one, a thumb of his left hand, and 3 of his toes. Total 9 digits of his body that he lost. Yet, his spirits were, when I met him in the hospital, he said, "Sir, the moment I'm all right, I'm coming back to the battalion in Seattle." You didn't realize that if you have suffered frostbite, you actually cannot go back in such severe cold areas again. And later, when he recovered fully and he realized that his employment, his job as a soldier would always be affected by his injuries, he refused to remain in the army any longer, or the army would have carried him all his life. He chose to leave the army. He appeared in the CAT, Common Entrance Test for admission to the IIMs. He got through. He got selected by IIM Bangalore. He did his MBA from IIM Bangalore. So, this is a great story of sacrifice and leadership of the first order. You cannot find these challenges of leadership anywhere in business environment or any other walks of life. Of leading by example. So that is one story that I would like to say. One more story I will share with you from my experiences in Kashmir in 2015-16. There was a group of terrorists that had infiltrated from Pakistan and they were being tracked. And they happened to land up in the area of my fortress. And we were tracking them with the use of technology. We were using UAVs to track them. And seeing how they were infiltrating, we picked up troops, put them in helicopter, and dropped them to the place closest to where these terrorists were, try and intercept them. And suddenly, we found that this group of terrorists that had infiltrated, whom we were tracking with the UAV, suddenly disappeared. We couldn't spot them, the UAV couldn't spot them. And the area was still quite barren. It was not that, what happens is sometimes when the terrorists go under foliage and the dense cover, the forests, it's difficult to spot with the UAV. They were still in the barren higher reaches, yet we couldn't see them. So we said, okay, now is how do you use technology? So here is your imagination. Okay, if you can't spot the terrorists, let's spot our own troops. So those special forces troops that we had dropped with the helicopters, we started tracking them with the UAV and started guiding them to the last point where the terrorists had disappeared. And he said, okay, you come till this point, we are guiding you there. And thereafter, we don't know where they went. So be careful. And lo and behold, we could guide them there till that spot. And as they started nearing that area, they told us on the radio set, "Sir, this area is full of caves. Probably these guys have gone into some caves." Okay, so now we knew, okay, they are generally localized in this area.
Hello friends, I apologize. We had a technical glitch and we couldn't get the last 30 seconds of Sir's interview. Here is what he said. The Indian Army wanted to capture the terrorists alive because terrorists that are alive are more valuable than them. So they can ask them questions. They captured at least one terrorist alive without losing a single soldier. Thank you. And a big thank you to Lieutenant General Asit Mistry for his time.